Dismal. Chair.
I've got a list.
Getting back to reality rather than UKIP unicorns, would you agree that the meaning of the meaningful vote this week in Parliament was that the Prime Minister suffered the biggest ever defeat of a government in history, with a majority of 230 against a deal, which scale of loss in normal times would have led inevitably to a resignation, not, as Churchill might say, KBO, regardless, sticking to red lines that have been rejected by the Commons? Isn't it about time the Prime Minister looked at the interests of the country and not just to try to paper over the massive cracks of the irreparably fractured Humpty Dumpty that's the Conservative Party?
I mean, Chair, one of the things that I did in literally the hours before the vote, but the days and the weeks before the vote, was to call upon all parliamentarians of all parties to look at the consequences of the Prime Minister's bad Brexit deal and their constituents of today and future generations. I'm really pleased that of the 73 MPs in London, only 8 supported this bad Brexit deal. I welcome the 118 Conservative MPs who rejected Theresa May's bad Brexit deal. I was in Parliament for the vote and talked to MPs from all sides. And I was shocked by the scale of the debate, as many MPs were from all sides. It is quite breathtaking that Prime Minister May is carrying on like nothing's happened. She didn't lose his vote by 2 votes or 12 votes. She lost by a record 230 votes, and it's breathtaking that she can give the impression of being flexible, pragmatic and willing to reach across. She's had 2.5 years to do so, has failed to do so. I think this leopard's not changing her spots.
And whilst there's a clear absence of a Commons majority for anything except crashing out with a no-deal Brexit, do you agree this must not be allowed to happen by default? And do you agree with what London First said, which is, quotes, "We need to stop the clock, revoke Article 50 to avoid a disastrous no-deal Brexit. If the government can't come up with a plan that commands parliamentary support, the decision should go back to the people."
Look, absolutely. Look, we've seen from today's newspapers that the Chancellor of the Exchequer has been relaying and explaining the concerns of businesses, how bad a no-deal Brexit would be, and I welcome London First coming out with their stance over the last few weeks. The simplest thing that the Prime Minister and government could do, and one would have support of nearly the entire Houses of Commons, but nearly all business industry, is to stop the clock running down. The Prime Minister can either withdraw Article 50 or extend it, which takes the pressure off and gives Parliament, the government, time to reach a sensible decision. In my view, bearing in mind Parliament is clearly in gridlock, the sensible course of action is to give the public back the control, give them a say for the first time on whether they accept the options given by the government, with the option, of course, given to the public of staying in the EU as part of the ballot.
Well, thanks for that, because isn't it the case that a people's vote second referendum is in fact a strengthening of democracy, not an undermining of it, bearing in mind the lies, distortions, illegal funding and overseas interference in the first referendum? Now we can see what's actually on offer. Isn't it essential to give the people the chance to decide on the clear choice between what's on offer from the Prime Minister and remaining in the EU? Isn't it the case that the anti-democrats are the majority, that minority of hardcore leavers who are frightened that an informed electorate might come to a different conclusion?
Well, the thing is, we now know, 2.5 years on, the reality, as opposed to some of the promises made during the referendum campaign. And so the British public can now make an informed choice on, now that we know what leaving the EU means, whether they decide to proceed with that, and we're perfectly entitled to do so as citizens, or whether we want to stay in an imperfect EU and try and reform it with all the benefits that brings. And the argument that it's not democratic to give more democracy to the people, I find a strange one. And it's interesting how there are some people who are scared to give the British public a say on the deal that they are so, keen to support, one rejected overwhelmingly by Parliament.
Assembly Member Copley.